Did you want waffles?
Hello, and welcome to Warlocks and Waffles, a TTRPG morning show. We are your hosts, and we're here with the show. Good morning.
Hello. I am his faithful co-host, Juni. I am not allowed to leave. Please help. Send help. Tell my family that
What is
I
this?
love them. I miss them. And most of all, I am hungry. For I am fed one slice, not loaf, of bread every other day.
You sound like a sad robot.
Thank you. That is what I was going for. After a few lines, I found the pocket. And then it's turning into David Attenborough. Like, it's turning into something else.
Oh man.
I was I was trying to do the just a very stereotypical customer service voice, and that's what came out of my mouth.
Welcome to the show. Oh man. What a start. Junie,
What?
how was
Yeah.
your week, bud?
So Monday I was ready to rock. But I had I thought I could see ghosts. I woke up and I felt like I could see my breath. That's usually not something that you should be able to do inside your home.
Oh
It's
man,
usually
it's been a long week. I forgot that was still a part of this week.
right.
That feels so long ago.
Correct. Monday I woke up and it was just like my heater was like nope, and it was National Weatherman Day, and nobody forecasted that my inside of my home was going to be an icy tundra. So we had to postpone talking about weather shenanigans.
Yeah, we got up and started getting ready for the show and stuff, and Judy was like, "Hey, my house is frozen."
Yeah, it was like,
oh.
It's one of those things where I was just like, I like getting under cozy under covers and stuff like that, but I realized I was really bundled up, I was really huddling for warmth, and didn't want to get out of bed, and it was more than normal. It was more than the weight of the world. Hey,
You're huddling
I don't
for
get...
just the bare minimum of heat that you need, not for comfiness. Yeah,
exactly. And I was like, these are unsafe working conditions. Hunter, please, this is not safe. And you were like, smoking your pipe and having your morning Chardonnay, and you were like, I'll allow it.
Fine. Consider this your pact boon.
But this is your vacation for the next 3 years.
We'll call it
now.
We'll call it a sick day, unpaid leave. Oh man.
But it's using more than one day. Be aware.
It's quite the inconvenience.
I suppose, but never say I don't do things for you.
Yeah, it was a cold day. Yeah. I do appreciate the fact that like you immediately came at it from a perspective of it wasn't Hunter, it's too cold and I don't want to get out of bed to do this show. It was Hunter, it's so cold. You wouldn't make my child wake up and be frozen. You wouldn't do that to my poor innocent child. Like,
Oh my god.
I need this time to take care of other things. I was like,
That was how I framed it.
immediately. It was the immediate approach you took was, Hunter, my child will freeze if I do not take care of
Because
this.
I imagined them like they get up and they're like, oh, where's dad? I'm hungry. That versus like getting up and they're like shivering. It's like, Papa.
like some just like some Victorian orphan,
Yeah.
just like
And
waddling through the
instead of like
house wrapped in a
toddling in,
blanket.
instead of toddling in just pajamas sleeping, it's like toddling in with a blanket. Like, Papa, why?
Please, Father.
Why? It's warmer
Father,
in here.
it's so
it wasn't warm where
cold.
I woke up. It's warm in here. I keep all the heat for myself. Get out of here, kid.
Father, why are you hogging the heat? Oh man, yeah, it was a cold day, so we took the day off.
You know, sometimes you have to.
Indeed.
So, how was
So.
your week though? How was your? What did you do,
Dude, it's been a
What did you do?
long-ass
How
week.
was your day? I'm assuming it wasn't freezing cold.
It wasn't freezing cold on Monday. My week has been just kind of busy. I've had a lot of different stuff happening. But the it's just been a long week. There's been a lot. I'm very tired. I realized Wednesday, I was like, oh, thank God it's Wednesday because that means I only have 2 days left. And then Thursday I was like, thank God it's Thursday because that means there's only 1 day left. And then today I'm like, oh my God, it's only Friday. I still have a whole day left.
So many hours.
I'm very tired. It's been a long week. Last night I felt the most defeated I have ever felt by a video game playing Baldur's Gate. I'm playing through, or I was playing through, honor mode, and my first playthrough on honor mode. And for anybody who doesn't know, honor mode in Baldur's Gate has a you only have one save file. And if you die, it ends your honor mode run. You only have the one like life that you get to use. So if at any point you are like fully like TPK'd, your party is not like there's nobody from your party that's still up, then your run is over. You have to start again. And so my first playthrough, I made it to the beach after the Nautiloid, like to that first encounter with the little intellect devourers, and they wiped me out, and I was like, ah, cool. Great. Love that. Let's start again. And so my second playthrough, I was like, okay, I'm going to play a bard. I'm going to like really lean into I'm going to try and talk my way past as many fights as possible. And so I got that character set up, and it was not the most fun character I've played, but like I did really well. And
You did what you had to do.
I did what I had to do.
I didn't
I put
enjoy
in my
this, but I
time.
did what I had to. You're playing a game not to enjoy it. You're just doing what you have
Well,
to.
and that's the thing is I don't like really difficult games. Like if I'm just more stressed playing
Yeah.
a game, I play a game to unwind. So if my stress level is getting really high, that's not necessarily fun for me. But I was like, I want to try. I want to try and beat this like honor mode. And like if you beat it, you get a new skin for your D20. It's this like gold D20 in the game that like the only way you get it is if you beat honor mode. And so I was like, I want that. Like I want
that for you too. So
I want to have accomplished this.
Spoiler alert, did you get it?
So spoiler alert, no. But here's the thing. I last night got to the end fight. It was the final fight.
When did you start this?
A couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay, thank God. Because I do remember you talking about honor mode, and I was just like, "Motherfucker, did you just do this in 5 days? Like, did you like
No,
in my head? I know it wasn't a week, but I was like,
it was almost
I haven't beat the game once, and this
yeah.
is not your first beat. You know
It
what I mean? I'm
was
like,
it was
how?
almost
How?
exactly 40 hours of gameplay for that run. Um but so I get to the final fight. Um and when I went to like do it, because I know that there is a way, you haven't gotten to the end, right?
To the end, no.
But you've played the game, so you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like Gale uh gets told like, hey, blow yourself up and like
Mhm.
take
Do
out the thing.
take the
um
L. Yeah.
you like you can do it the first time you encounter it, but like that ends the game and it's bad and it doesn't count as a win for honor mode. The if you are if you get to the end fight, there's also, if you bring Gale with you, there's also the option of like you can talk Gale into blowing himself up there and ending it, like ending the thing, and that will count as an honor mode win. But you essentially get to bypass the full last fight.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
and don't take my word on it. That's what I've been told. I don't know for sure that it's an honor mode thing, win, but as far as I
But do
know,
you
that counts as
die?
an
Do you
honor
blow
mode.
yourself up, or do you send him to
No,
go blow
you
himself up?
send him up and he blows himself up. I
Yeah, I
believe it
mean, you
counts as
didn't
an honor
die.
mode win. Um, so I I had in I had kind of in the back of my mind been like, okay, I can bypass that whole last fight. Like if I get there,
Mhm.
I can just count this as a win. And I decided I didn't want to take the cheap route out. I didn't want to like just blow him up
You
and
fool.
like take the win. I wanted to have earned it. Like if I'm gonna come that far, I want it to be earned. Um, and so I did the fight. It took me 2.5 hours of
Oof.
going through that final fight. Um, and got into the final fight with the absolute. Got like into that final battle.
You fight the
Um,
absolute?
got the got down to like only two of my people were still up. Both of those people had single digit hit points. Like I had nowhere else to go. I was out of all of my spells, out of all of my healing. Like I had exhausted all of my resources and I beat it. I killed it. I won. And it transitions into the next scene, and I get a little pop-up that says like, congratulations, you beat tactician mode. And I'm like, no.
Mm.
First of all, I've already beaten tactician mode. Second of all, I wasn't in tactician mode. This is honor mode. um get through the whole thing. No acknowledgement of it being in honor mode. I didn't get the gold D20. Like it didn't count as a win in honor mode, and I have no idea why.
You can't like
And
reload the save. You can't
no,
reload the save or not.
no, because
The
it goes into the next save
the
and or the next scene and it immediately
the only thing
transitions.
I can think of, because I know nothing of this, is like I know it's if you die, you die, but did your character ever go down and your party need to revive them?
Uh, yeah, but it's a full party. If
Okay,
you can
because
get people up as many times as you need to.
I was gonna say like full blown dead and a
Hmm.
revivify scroll or spell need
Hmm.
to be put like because you were dead, and I was
Hmm.
like, no, you didn't make it without dying. You
No,
died one time. That's the only thing I could think of.
it's a it has nothing to do with if you like if your
Yeah,
character
yeah, yeah.
dies. Yeah.
You
Um.
can't fudge the save. Yeah, I got
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it is the most defeated I have ever felt at the like. I I won. I beat honor mode. I feel good about that. But the the excitement I should have felt at the end of that was grossly crushed by the fact that it didn't count it as a win. I was so defeated last night, and then I had to run a game, and I was like, fine, I'll get
You're
into
going
this
in with the
game.
wrong energy. Like,
Luckily, it's a group that I really enjoy running for, so it wasn't like a big deal. But yeah, it was extremely frustrating. So I'm now like working up the willpower to start another honor
if
mode run, I guess.
I it's one of those things where it's whether or not it's streamed. I do want to beat the game one day, and I
Mhm.
also like that mid. Like I feel like I like playing games for the same reason. Like
Mhm.
I'm not a Dark Souls person where I'm like
Yeah.
I want that. Like maybe there are times, and especially with people, because then it's frustrating you sharing in that frustration. But for me, just to be like, I'm gonna go, like I have a picture I was gonna send in the group chat. It's my kid. I put on my Switch and they were playing Pac-Man.
Mhm.
It's a 2-year-old attempting Pac-Man, original OG Pac, and I was just like, look, get all the dots. And she just can't figure out move down, and she's figuring
Mhm.
out like the general moving joystick, and she was kind of getting it. And I was just like, oh, the ghosty got you. Don't let the ghosty get you. And then I'm in the kitchen washing dishes, and I just hear, oh man, come on. And then she just constant replays, constantly going. And I'm like, this person's 2. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
like, it's scary that, like, I couldn't do that when I was 2. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So to go, I was like, she's trying, and she did not get very far. But then at one point, I hear the controller hit the ground, and I was like, "Did you throw the controller?" And she picks it up real quick, no. Just
It's good to know that like throwing the controller is a universal
is yeah,
experience.
frustration. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh god. Uh, but real quick before we go, because we actually had a topic
Yes,
and
we do,
whatnot
and
today, but
I do want to get to it.
but the one last thing, because we were talking about like the week and whatnot, the
Mhm.
one thing that of note that happened this week that I you know what I want to share, and it's not even TTRPG related, but we share our preferences sometimes. My wife and I watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Amazon
Oh,
Prime.
with
Donald Glover and
Donald Glover. Yeah.
Maya Erskine. I wanted to remember her name,
Mhm.
Maya Erskine, because I felt it was so good,
Mhm.
and Miss and Jane Smith was so good. I started to feel disrespectful to go Donald Glover, and that lady,
Yeah.
because she's that good. That
Yeah.
good enough where I was like, I need to put some respect on this woman's name. It is a good show. If anybody wants to watch a good
The
show,
way you have phrased that is so wild. Like, yeah,
uh,
she earned my respect. Like
no,
my
because like I
my
didn't know her name.
default. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't
No,
know her name,
I
and my
absolutely
default
get
would
it.
have been like,
Yeah.
that Donald Glover thing, and I was like, it's not like
Yeah.
it was
It's both.
him,
Yeah.
and it was a joint thing, and it was phenomenal casting. And if anybody
Awesome.
has Amazon Prime, go check that out,
Yeah.
because it was good.
That is good to know because we're always looking for like new shows to watch.
My opinion,
Um
really, really good, so good.
Awesome.
Mm.
I will check that out. Yeah, we're watching through the last season of the Harley Quinn animated show.
Mm.
Which is also very, very good. But yeah. Okay. Junie,
Hmm.
what are we talking about?
Uh, it's mostly me. I like to make things difficult, as you know.
I'm aware.
I just randomly the other day thought about the TikToks that I don't do anymore, and I for a long time had a series of TikToks called unhelpful NPCs, where they were fun
Mhm.
for either myself or for the PCs, but they were not helpful to the plot or the actual. They were not conducive to a smooth sailing session or campaign.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that some NPCs, it's almost like a difficulty rating. Like, this is a max difficulty rating. Either you're high skilled high skilled GM, and you can make this work because it's not necessarily D&D. It could be like anything you need a character for.
Mhm.
Um, or you just want to mess with your players. So I have a few. I was just gonna throw out some of the ones I had done, because
Mhm.
the first half is us gonna be talking about, like, what makes it helpful or versus not helpful. But then we're gonna crank out some, but some of them that I had done before was a thief merchant, where it's a fun merchant that in the dead of night you just involve some DM shenanigans, but you basically go into your character's character sheets if you have access to them on D&D Beyond and just take something. Literally take rope, some sort of mundane thing from their pack, delete
Yeah.
it, and then when they visit a shop, you have that thing and you just make the DC dumb hard, make this thing seem amazing. Like it's snake oil, sell the heck out of it. They fail any sort of perception checks or anything like that. It's pretty expensive, but sell back their item for a dumb price. And if they get it the first time, if they understand the first time, cool. If not, see how many times you can get away with doing it. But this does not help further the plot at all. This is just you robbing them and then them trying to figure out, you're creating a mystery for no reason, because this
Right.
isn't like, you could make it a part of your plot and stuff like that, but when I thought of this, it was just like, it'd be funny, and that was that. So
Yeah.
it's just but that's not going to help you in any way, and it's just going to be either fun for you, fun for the players, but not like fun for the plot. Another one was, I just wrote Sticky Kid because I just imagined either a boss fight or like the final encounter in a mission, not necessarily the campaign,
Mhm.
but like I love it when players give me like backstory. And one thing, just to know how edgy they are, it's like, are your parents alive? Like, do
Mhm.
they exist? Are they okay? And not everybody needs to have like dead parents or like a traumatic. Some people, it's just like, oh yeah, they're off, I'm doing my thing, but they're alive.
Mhm.
I just imagine going into like a cave, and it's like, oh, we got to defeat this dragon to help this town, and then as they're stepping in, a portal opens up, and a wizard woman comes out with a small child, and it's like, oh, Danica, look, I need to do some shopping, and I need you to watch your little brother. Thanks. And they just drop off a really sticky kid, right? And it's just a little sticky kid there,
Yeah.
and it's like, you have to go do this thing, but you have a real sticky kid. And if you make him one of the players' brothers,
Oh my
they
goodness.
want to keep him alive,
That's
but
so
now there's a
funny.
time sensitive thing.
I
So
love
this is
that
not
so
helpful.
much.
This is not helpful.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, she's gonna pick him up when she's done shopping,
Uh-huh.
but now you got this sticky kid there, and just make him real sticky, like for no reason.
Yeah.
And he's gonna want to touch things,
He
and he's
keeps
gonna
he
be
keeps
like,
tugging on your robe and being like,
Hey, you got games on your sending stone?
yeah, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's funny, but like, you've just janked up your session, you know what I mean, for lulls. That's not going to help anything. It'd be funny if your player leans into it. It'd be
Mhm.
funny if your player's like, you had another kid, and it's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, like whatever it's going to be. But
It's their step parent is like dropping off their step sibling.
oh my
And
god,
they're
yeah,
they're
it's
like
just like,
they're like, "You're not my real mom." Like, just give them
and it's just like, I understand that, but they are still your brother, and you know what I mean? And it's just like,
Mhm.
the kid didn't do anything. You're gonna be a jerk to the kid. The
Right.
he's sticky, but like,
Yeah.
otherwise he's just a kid. And then my
Oh,
favorite
man.
is a birthday god. I've probably mentioned this before,
I
but
think you've talked about this one.
this is my favorite thing, my favorite NPC I've ever made ever. And it's literally, if you have a paladin, warlock, cleric, anything that has some sort of deity or some sort of like person they listen to, have popping them right into the beginning of a session, and then just going happy birthday. And
Mhm.
then you look at your player and you ask them, is it your birthday today? Is it your
Mhm.
character's birthday? And they'll either say yes. Oh yeah, it is. My deity remembered. And then you give them a nice little cake with some buffs, bonuses, boons, whatever you want to gift them.
Mhm.
But it's so thoughtful that their deity remembered their birthday, got it right, and stuff like that. But if their player says no, if your player says it's not my birthday, and I was like, okay, then do you tell them? Do you tell your deity that,
Then they got the birthday
oh,
wrong.
hey, God, you're wrong?
Yeah.
Or do you be polite and be like, oh, thank you, and just play along? If you tell your God that you're wrong, they might not take that so great. They
Uh-huh.
might be like, no, it is your birthday. I'm not wrong.
Mhm.
And then you ask your player, how long ago was your birthday? Is it coming up, or has it already passed? And then your god might be a little salty, and he might move time to be the birthday, either forward or backwards,
Yeah.
and how much time has
These
passed.
mortals getting so caught up in the like
Correct. And
linear
it's just like,
flow
no,
of time.
exactly. Snap your fingers, like, no, today's your birthday. And then you go, how long ago or how far until your birthday? And that much time has passed. What were they doing beforehand?
Mhm.
If they were going to do something and it was like in the future, well, guess what? You missed it. If it's in the past, you might get a do-over on something.
Mhm.
But how dramatically has that changed your game setting? Again, you just janked up your campaign
Mhm.
because it was funny,
Right.
not helpful at all.
Yeah. You could theoretically make it helpful if
You
you
can.
if
Everything
you
can be
knew if you
exactly,
knew
yeah.
when their character's birthday was, which is a wild
Correct.
thing to know.
Correct. And it's all things where it's like all this is like it might fit into a specific game setting system or something like that. Like it's not like these are impossible, but it's not just they're not blanket like, oh, this is a helpful merchant. Like, you know, this can be
Right.
put anywhere for any single thing. It's like, no, this is these are janky, they're funny, good for specific use cases, and they're fun to toy around with, but not across the board helpful.
Mhm.
Um, do you have a hard and fast rule of like what makes an NPC helpful or not? Because for me, automatically, it's if I pre-plan them,
Mhm.
they're automatically more helpful because I've thought of where they fit in. Unless it's like a joke
Sure.
I'm putting in as like to be helpful just to me.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You make a shopkeeper, they have these things, they have these bit of knowledge, they're furthering stuff. But do you have like oh, I never do this, or like I always have to include a desire? Like what do you think of?
So I feel like the most helpful NPCs are the ones that are like, uh, yeah, you're trying to accomplish this, and this NPC is just like there to help with that, right? Like here is the next step that you need, or here is like I'm trying to find this item. Yeah, this NPC is selling that item. Like those are the most helpful NPCs. I don't necessarily have like a hard list of like this is what I do to ensure an NPC is helpful, or this is what I do to like make sure that they're furthering the plot or anything like that. Um I think for me, I I I care less about if the NPC is helpful, and more on if the NPC uh matches the vibe of the players.
Hmm.
Because like a player who is um like looking to do nonsense can have an unhelpful NPC
Mm-hmm.
be like very fun for them in that moment. Um I think it comes down a lot for me to the uh like if you are going yes and doing this thing, or like shutting something down. An
Mm-hmm.
example from my game last night would be I had a player decide that they wanted to they're in this big city. They're trying to find like their other party members because the party has been all split up, but they're all trying to get to the city. And so I
How split up? Like split like this, or everybody's different places? I always
every
wonder when
so
split the party what that means for people.
everyone started in different places, and
Ooh,
they were all
oh,
trying
oh
to
my
get
gosh.
to the same city.
Ooh.
So this one party member was already in the city and was like trying to find the other party members, and so they said that they wanted to go to like a park or something like that, where like the retired people are just playing checkers and like chess and stuff in the park, and they're like, I want to recruit all these like retired people
Mhm.
to like just be my eyes and ears on the street. Like I want to build a spy network of, these older people. And so I was like, absolutely. And we like rolled with it and made they had a like the leader of their network of like their spy ring of the elderly was a halfling named Wilbert DeFriend. And he was just a very interesting little dude. But he helped them track down information. On the flip side of that, during that session, the players wanted to go to a bakery, and like pester the bakery for like free baked goods. And it got shut down very quickly of like, this is not leading towards anything like fun. Like this is kind of a dead end
This is just becoming its own thing.
in the session. So we kind of shut it down and moved away from it. So for me, a useful NPC doesn't have to be actually useful, as long as they're matching the energy of the players in that moment.
One day I do want to talk about how you and have you seen other people do the managing of when multiple players are doing different things. Because I know I try to bounce around and try to go like, oh, feel like everybody's doing, everybody's doing like something where it's like, all right, you haven't talked in a bit, and get everybody, feeling like they're actively participating. But it's real easy if that one player is like they're chewing on a scene, and then I know I get lost in the sauce very easily, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I didn't realize we've been spending 15-20 minutes on this baker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me know if you start hearing tablet noises.
Will do.
But because someone's here now. But there is I know that you've done this a lot, and it's something I've always tried to do as far as like even if I'm making somebody up on the fly, so at least in my brain they feel helpful, is giving everybody a want. And like when you talked about like your Groundhog's Day, like the time loop situation you're managing, who's going where.
Yeah.
If you give everybody a want, then it feels like, I don't want to say a puzzle piece where it's like it's always going to have its place type of thing in your world, but it definitely feels more like, they're a part of something bigger, instead of like me like looking at the gaps that are in place and just cutting a shape that's like, you know what, this is close enough, and then slapping it in there.
That's right. It goes in the square hole.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you've seen that one, right? Where it's like it all goes in the square hole. Like that's definitely my whole, like I could fit this in there. Here we go. Is it gonna jank things up later? It's like when we describe a chair too crazy and everybody wants to kill it. Do you find that any types of NPCs become, I don't want to say become nonsense characters, but do you find that like there's, oh, anytime I introduce a blank, these characters jank things up, or my characters latch onto them, or they end up being the ones that, because I wrote down some like categories, and I'm like quest givers, shopkeepers, other adventurers, there'll be like inanimate objects, sentient animals. For me, it's animals. Animals will just jank up anything for me. I play with a lot of like younger players, and they love pets. I so many independent campaigns that have needed zoos, because once one kid finds out that they can have a chicken, everybody else wants a chicken, a dragon, a rhino, a wolf, a bear. And then I have to go like, okay, well, you all realize that it's too dangerous to keep all your animals with you because they're normal animals, so you leave them at home. And they're like, oh man. The The only time I ever weaponized that was there was every kid wanted an animal, blah blah, and there was one kid that when he had a chicken, he was the first person to have an animal. He had a chicken,
Mhm.
and everybody just kept attacking his chicken because of meanness. Like there was no reason, not even hunger or anything. They
Yeah.
were just like mean kids, right?
Yeah.
Um, and he was the only kid to kind of like play along and really listen to rules and like just he tried. He was a good kid. And everybody they started having a zoo or something like that, and there was something I forgot what boon I did was, but it was essentially like he got to make that chicken a familiar.
Nice.
So he got to take the chicken. Everybody's like, "What does he get chicken?" It's like he's using it like a spell. Like he's actively doing it, and he
Mhm.
used it the way you're supposed to. It wasn't like during combat, I want to brush my wolf, which
Mhm.
one of them wanted to do. Like, well, I don't want to do it, so I'm gonna just take care of my wolf, like
Right.
maintenance. And I'm like, what do you? No, I shouldn't have let you do this. Like, this is on me. I've done this to myself.
Right.
But like quest givers, they don't usually, unless the quest is nonsensical, they don't. The only time they ever jank things up for me is if I do that. I gave them I was overly descriptive in describing something dumb, like, oh, they keep looking to the wall,
We've
and
all done that at some point.
you know what I mean. It's like
Yeah.
I've made them shifty. Shopkeepers, they're unless you describe the items or like your players just want to haggle, that's not your fault. But have you ever like I said, for me, animals, do you have anything where it's like your players keep latching on to blank or these end up being problematic?
Hmm. Um I what's messed me up a couple of times is having like an NPC that I think will be really funny or I think will be really
Mm,
fun, and
mhm,
like I introduce it and it doesn't land, and I'm like, okay, well maybe they just didn't get it. I'll try again like some other time.
mhm.
And I try and reintroduce it, and it's like so clear that the party is just like not into that
Not about it.
NPC. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll try something different. The running theme, like the one that I've had a few times, is if I introduce an NPC who is like just there to like a transitionary character of
Basically
like
made just to
I'm
be,
here
yeah.
to give you like a piece of information that will send you on
Mhm.
your way, and then I've accidentally made them too interesting, and then the
Oh,
party is like,
yeah.
come with us, and
This guy's too oh,
I have to
yeah.
be like, No," and they're like, "We'll
You
pay
made somebody
you."
that was too cool. You made somebody that
Right.
was too
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, I got
Uh,
you.
and like I've had players be like, "Oh, we'll pay you. Here's like 100 gold."
You have to
And
like,
it's
well,
like,
wait, that
this
all
is
is logical. That would be
this is a
awesome, but n
this is a regular person.
mhm,
100 gold is an insane amount of money.
mhm.
Like, yeah, like I can't
I
think
I
of a
I
reason for them not to go with you.
exactly,
Like
I
I've
hate it when they
already
use your own
verified that
logic against you, yeah.
they have no they have no family here. They are looking for work. They are like
Mhm.
they don't have a place that they're living yet because they're like traveling here looking for a new home. Like I've established these things, and then the party is like, "Oh, come with us. You can be
You
our
can only be
like."
proud of your players for paying attention and
Right.
weaponizing your
Yeah.
own world against you at that point, so it's
Um
hard. I definitely understand that, yeah.
it happens. I've also had NPCs that I've like accidentally like said they were from a specific place, or
Mhm.
like said they like given some piece of information, and then my players are like, "Wait, we know that." And they like start flipping through it, and
Yeah.
they're like, "That you're from where?" And then they're like
Mhm.
out of character like to the rest of the table. They're like, "We know that that city was destroyed. Like it's not around
Mhm.
anymore." I'm like, "Damn it." You're freaking right. It doesn't
Isn't it bad when your
exist.
players isn't it bad when your players accidentally make something more compelling than what you made?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if you do this. I am so guilty of, I don't know if it was a Matt Mercer video or something where I saw
Mhm.
somebody say something along the lines of like, try not to let part the screen behind the DM screen too much, like so that way you can keep some mystery, you know what I mean? So not knowing that this could have happened, or like, you know, keeping some things for later, like you can still reuse something if it got bypassed or something like that. Since I do a lot of one shots, I do like, I'm guilty of like going like it could have blanked.
Right.
So that way they can go like, oh man, that could have went south. But and this is I probably should stop this. I'm very guilty of, if a player comes up with something that much better than whatever I was, like the thing, I say, well, that's just way better than whatever I had written down right here. So that's it. Because then I make them feel cool, where it's just like, you know, hey, you came up with something. I say I'm a professional game master. I do this for professionally, and you were nervous about playing. You came up with something way better than what I did. You know what I mean? So this is now your contribution to this collaborative storytelling experience. You know what I mean?
I mean,
I'm very guilty of that.
I feel like 50% of being a professional game master is just like being able to adapt quickly.
Yes.
Like if somebody meant like brings something up that you're like, oh, that's really good, let's run with that. Like that's half of the game.
But it's admitting that mine is inferior. That's the part that I go to like, oh, my thing, jank. Like your thing, art. Love it. Let's go with that. You don't suck at this. You know what I mean? It's just like, all right, Judy, you need to stop doing that.
I had a when I ran games in person, I had a game once where the players had fundamentally changed the course of where the game was going. Had just like taken a sharp right turn away from everything I had planned. And I had like a whole notebook just filled with notes in this direction. And they're like, we're going this way. And I physically took the notebook and tossed it into the garbage can.
I have done that. I've done that. Yeah. Oh my God. I did that with did I ever tell you how I proposed to Shanice? Did I did it with a D&D session?
Oh, maybe.
It was first day in our new apartment, and I was like, I want to play a game, and she was like, huh? And there was like a full setup with a map and minis and stuff like that. And she's like, okay. And it was like a green dragon wormling or something like that. And she was I described it as it was eating food on a table. And she's like, oh, it's hungry. Can I like give him food and like train it or something? And I was just like, well, you know, it looks like it's like wild or whatever, so you know, you can roll, like go for it. And it was a natural 20, and she's like, good, he's my friend now. And I was like, whoa, you've successfully convinced it that it shouldn't kill you, but you didn't just make it your pet. And she's like, well, I was like, roll again to see if you can like really. And it was like another 19 or 20 something, and I was like, yeah, this is your pet now. Like I can't take up something from anybody like more than once. And two, I was trying to propose during this, but I did have like a full stat sheet and kind of how the dragon would behave and use the keep as like its like thing. And I was just like, well, all right, you have a dragon now, let's keep going. And I was just like, like, let's go, I'm trying to propose to you. Let's find this ring. Man.
Yeah, there are I feel like some of my favorite NPCs are ones that like either came about for like a like, oh, you need this one thing, like in the story you need something to give you this piece of information or something like that, and then the party just kind of was like, we like this guy, we're gonna keep him around. Like that's always one of like, those are always my favorite NPCs. The ones that like start as kind of a joke are just really entertaining to me. One of my parties has they have a bard who keeps using speak with animals, and the first time he used it on this like rat. They were in the sewers, they're looking for this like undead down in the sewers, and he cast speak with animals on this rat to like interrogate it about where the undead was. And in the moment that he cast it, in the back of my head, I was like, it'd be really funny if I just kind of like changed the way that Speak with Animals works, where like,
Mhm.
so traditionally when you cast Speak with Animals, it's like you gain the ability to commune with like the animal, right?
Mhm.
Um, when he cast it, he specifically said that he was casting Speak with Animals on this rat. And so I was like, it would be really funny if I was just like, you have given this rat this like awakened mind temporarily of like it understands you, it can converse, it can like it's learning new concepts and stuff.
Oh my
And
god.
so he's like asking it questions that just kept being like, what's that? I don't know what that is. And then he'd like explain what it was, and he's like, oh, yeah, there was something like that down here.
Well,
It
I
went
think
that way.
that's fair because it has an intelligence rating. So I
Right.
mean, that would be fair if it doesn't know those things. I've seen that approach. Yeah.
And so it was like this, like it's this rat, it's learning things as it's like as he's asking it. But then he like the spell ended, because it can only go for like 10 minutes, I think. And so he had the rat with him, and the spell ended, and as the spell like ended and he could no longer like communicate with the rat, he like rolled a check and realized that the rat looked really confused and like was kind of frantic and looking around, and so he cast it again, and immediately I was like, I played off the rat as having like it had this sentience, it was aware of everything, and then all of
Oh
a
my
sudden it was
god.
back, and it was back in this like animal mind and this void of like, all I was doing was scurrying, and I was in the dark, and then I was talking, and I don't know how to talk, and then I was back in the void,
Oh
and
my
then he's like
god.
asking questions.
That's messed up.
And so
That's
he
messed up.
kept casting it, and
That's
then
so not cool.
and then
Oh
at
my
one point
god.
he was like, okay, I'm kind of done conversing with this rat. I'm just gonna stop concentrating on Speak with Animals, and we can leave. And so they just like the rat is just like just complete nervous breakdown over like it had a glimpse, and I think what kind of inspired me for that was the like in the stories of like Cthulhu and like these eldritch deities, right? It's always this uh like we humans are these like just regular people trying to commune with these creatures that have like existences beyond anything that we could understand. And so if that is the case with us trying to commune with like an eldritch deity, then the reverse of that would be like if Cthulhu was casting like speak with humans, to be able to like commune, and it just makes us aware of everything to be able to
Yeah.
understand him.
Our conscious
Uh,
I always just whenever I have a situation where like somebody's using like a perception expanding spell where it's
mhm.
like speak with something or detect something or whatever, I always say your pupils dilate and your consciousness expands. Like
Mm,
I it's like a catchphrase where if somebody does something where it's like, oh, you're gonna notice something a little bit extra because of magic reasons.
mhm.
And I just imagine that's what it's like for the rat every time, where it's just like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh my god,
Uh,
I can taste
at
the
one point,
sound.
the rat, like, I'm fairly certain at one point the rat legitimately was like, "Don't send me back to the void." It's yeah, there's so many like NPCs that have come out of like little nonsense things. Like one of my, you've met Daniel.
Hmm.
One of in one of the early games that I played with Daniel, I had just as like I like doing kind of like when players when the characters set up camp and they have like long rests and stuff, every once in a while like I have encounters where like something attacks or something like that, or there's something moving out in the woods or something. But sometimes it's just a like a little like immersion thing, right? And so one of the very early on in their campaign, one of the things I did was like Daniel was on watch and he heard the sound of something moving nearby, and he went to check it out, and it was just a possum. Like it was just this possum who was kind of like rooting around in the bush, and it was like this small possum, looked like it had been potentially abandoned by like the rest of its family. And so he was like, okay, well, I'll take it back to camp and I'll give it some food and stuff.
Oh my God.
And I was like, that's cute. Like, yeah, you'll like give it some food, you'll send it on its way, like we're good to go. And then he gave it some food and he rolled some like animal handling checks and rolled really well. And befriended this possum, and then he was like, I'll like bring the possum with us. Like he'll come with us, we'll continue. And like I'll take care of him. And I was like, okay, cool. But like he's just a possum, so like be careful that he doesn't die. And they went on this whole thing, and eventually they ended up uh like bonding the possum to him as like a familiar. And what I gave him, like they essentially merged him with like a pseudo dragon. So I gave him
Oh
like the
my
little
God.
like spine ridge and like little bat wings and a little he had the possum tail, but it had the little scorpion stinger on the end of it. And like it was this familiar that he could conjure it, and he could speak with the familiar and stuff. Like it became a fundamental part of the character. But like he was a cleric. Like he wasn't a like a wizard or somebody who was like, ah, yes, I'm looking for a familiar. It was just like he was a cleric
Like
who
this
was like,
happened.
I'm going to make sure that this possum is taken care of. And then eventually it was a core member of the party. Like Reggie the possum. And you can't talk about the that campaign without bringing him up. They went to hell at one point, because Reggie the possum got kidnapped and taken to hell, and they went to hell to storm
They went to
Asmodeus's
hell for the possum. They
they
went to
went to
hell
hell
for the
to
possum.
storm Asmodeus's castle to like try and get the possum back.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's there are wild things that can come out of like nothing, like little throwaway characters. um I had
I
a game where the party had like a dragon egg, and they were trying to hatch it, and so they needed somebody to like just tell them about dragons. And so they went to this little shop, and it's just this little like kobold who runs a shop but is like really into dragons. And so it's a Sylvester,
like a
Sylvester
wise
the kobold.
like a wise older kobold that knows a lot, or just
No,
like a dragon nerd, like
just a
super
dragon
into
nerd.
dragon.
Yeah, just
That's
really into
fantastic. I
dragons.
love it.
Like has a lot of theoretical knowledge about dragons, has never like
Okay.
interacted with one. But they ended up like hiring him, and like
Oh
they have a
God.
ship. And so they like hired him and put him on the ship, and like he's now taking care of their dragon egg because like they needed somebody to who knew about dragons, and he was the closest thing they could find. Um yeah, it's I love those little like throwaway NPCs that become ingrained into the game.
I sent a picture in our group chat where it's me running a game of D&D for like, it was just like last week or the week before, and I it was like 12 teens, and half of them, five or six of them were new.
Mhm,
So, and not just new, like they didn't want the pre-made characters, they wanted to try to make characters.
mhm,
So it was me literally like the quickest explanation of character creation, where I was just like, all right, here are the basic numbers, put the highest one on the thing you think you're better at, and the lowest one I think you're not as good at. And then if tell me if you want to use magic, or you'd rather hit things, or if you want like where you want to go, right?
mhm,
So they didn't have defined races and classes. They just kind of like had amorphous like generalities.
mhm,
But I like to do something where it's just like, all right, I want to like emphasize like, all right, you can do anything type of situation. So they had to go deactivate a security system or something.
Mhm.
And I was like, you're all in this like magical cart. You're all fitting in there, right? It's like
Mhm.
spares no expense. It's like really luxurious in here. There's snacks, and there's one like, it's like somebody said, is there something we can get drinks from? Like, is there drinks? And I was like, actually, there's this thing against the wall, and there's glasses next to it, and it looks like a nozzle, and it just pretty much says like, what do you want? And the one kid, he was newer. He's like, I want like the fanciest drink ever, like the
Mhm.
fanciest drink I could think of. And I was like, he's like, I'm a noble, like, so I think I know. And I was like, roll. And I was like, and I just basilisk champagne. You
Yeah.
know, you've never had it, but you know it's serious, and you think of that, and you hear a
You you know it's serious is such a good line for
yeah,
that.
yeah, and I was just like, I described it as, if you can imagine like 7-Up being poured, but you can't see the liquid, you just see the bubbles, but you feel
Mm.
the heft. And when you tilt it just right, you can see that there is a liquid in this. And when you smell it, it burns. You know this is serious. And I had him roll constitution checks. He rolled really good, but I told him internally, he was like, stay cool, stay cool, stay cool, stay cool. But then what I had done was I gave free reign to to 11 teenagers to make up stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know if it was the next kid. One kid asked for grape juice,
Mhm.
and I was like, "You get grape juice. It's good. It's
Mhm.
tasty." One kid, because I didn't define what they were and stuff like that, they were like, "I'm not a dinosaur." They just kept saying, "I'm definitely not a dinosaur. I'm a human." And I was like, and I kept side eyeing them like, okay. And they just kept saying, "I'm definitely not a dinosaur." And I was okay. And they said,
Yeah.
"Can I get leaves? Can I go up and say leaves?" And I was like, "You just want leaves like a smoothie?" And they're like, "No, just leaves,
Just
like
like
from
a
the top of a
salad?
tree, like
Yeah.
from the top of a tree." And I'm like, "Okay, well, so you hear what sounds like a blender, and then
Mhm.
what comes out is like a mulchy bunch of leaves. You
Mhm.
taste it, num num. These are the ones that have been really photosynthesized. They're from the top of the tree. Them good leaves."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Is that what you want?" And she's like, "Yeah, thank you." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." One person, then they tried to get janky.
Oh,
Somebody was
man.
like, "I want a potion of invisibility," and I'm like,
Ooh. Got
"Okay."
got real
But then
creative, yeah.
but it's the kids that try to metagame me. They try to
Mhm.
get for a deck of many things, and like they tried to whatever. And he's like, "I'm gonna drink half," and he's gonna drink half. And I'm like, "Okay, cool." He's like, "I'm gonna drink it real fast," and the other guy's, "I'm gonna drink it real slow." And I'm like, "Cool." You drink it real fast. You feel it hit the back of your throat, and all of you see the back of his head start to disappear, and then his head disappears, and then his shoulders and arms, and it stops around here. And I had his upper half disappeared, and the other
Mhm.
guy drank it real slow, and his lower
His
body
lower
disappeared.
body disappeared.
So I was
Yeah.
like, and they looked at me like, and then one guy was like, Junie monkey paws you every time you
Yeah.
do that. Why do you keep doing it? And I was like, yeah, why do you keep doing it?
Yeah.
But
The
then one
monkey's
person asked
paw
for,
is the best approach to
yeah,
any player who ever is like, I'm going to try and like metagame this and make this
hmm
like go the exact way that I want to go. Monkey's paw is the correct answer.
correct.
It's the best way to approach it.
One guy said he wanted to put like, I want to drink, I forgot how he worded it, but he said he wanted to drink something to make his sword stronger.
Hmm.
And I'm like, what? He's like, I want to basically infuse my weapon. I want to drink something that infuses my weapon. When I was like, okay, so you just want to drink violence? All right. You hear like metal in a blender, and then what you see is like a bunch of like small knives and swords and axes, but they slosh around oddly as if it was a liquid. You have a
Mm-hmm.
cup of liquid violence? Like, do you drink it? And he's like, yeah, I down it. No thinking about it. I chug it. And I was like, roll me a constitution check. He passed it hardcore. And then I was like, all of you see this guy just chugging this, but you see like red stuff trickling. I was like, you are bleeding. You take
Mhm.
a D4 of damage. Everybody looks like he must drink cranberry juice or whatever.
Mhm.
But he's taking like a champ. Because he was also trying to metagame, I made it that his emotions transferred into his blade. So I would just perpetually ask him every once in a while, "How are you feeling right now?" And he's like, "I'm angry." And I was like, "You guys hear from his sword?" And just like his sword would always like be channeling an emotion
Yeah.
all the time. And it was like, fun ones where it was like, weird things like that. But then one person asked for a puppy, right? And then I had to go, and it was a new player, and I said, "All right." In my head, I'm looking at the clock, and about, if not half, more than half the time of this session has
Mhm.
passed in this carriage because I did this to myself.
Mhm.
I made a nonsense thing
Oh,
that was not helpful to the plot.
the
Yeah,
number of times I have introduced something as like, "This will be a fun throwaway thing," and
correct. But
it
that,
is now the whole session is
but it was
insane.
this very thing, a not helpful NPC, because it became something at this point, where it was just like, all right, but they're all learning because then they all realized like, oh, some kid was like, oh, I'm like a turtle person, like a slime, he's like, I'm from a swamp. Can I get slime? And I was
Mhm.
like, okay, like, what does it look like? He's like, it looks like this. And I was like, have you had slime? He's like, yeah. I was like, it's good slime. Like, it's got the right pH. Like, it's good slime. But the one kid said like she wanted a puppy,
Mhm.
and I was like, okay,
To
I have to.
drink?
Well, I was like, I have to ask this to consume, or do you want companionship? Like, do you want a puppy like as a
Right.
pet,
Do you want a
or are
pet or
you?
do you want a drink?
And she's like, I just say I want a puppy. And it's like she looked at me dead in the face and was like, "I dare you to interpret this another
Right.
way." And I put
Right.
my hands on the table, and you could in the picture I sent you, you see me going like this because I'm literally trying to find the line of what are you asking me for. And I was like, "All right, guys, I'm just trying to figure out whether she's trying to eat a puppy or not. Okay, just give me a second." And then I
It's
had like,
it's the age old like playing chicken,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah,
Of like, I order a puppy. What are you gonna do? You're the one that has to make the choice of if you're
one
putting a
thousand
puppy
percent.
in a blender.
So she goes up and she says like puppy, and then I was like, after all that, I'm like, okay, you hear the sound of like things rattling around the pipes and like ding 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 ding, and then you see like a strip of something, like a strip of leather, and it kind of starts spooling out, and it has a little loop at the end of it, and then it kind of catches,
Mhm.
um, and then because that's a leash, and then it's
Mhm.
like, and then it catches and it's like forcing something out, and everybody, it's one of those DM moments where you see everybody lean forward and their mouth kind of like go open because they were like, oh no, what's happening? And I was like, I'm in
Yeah,
control of a
what are
group of,
you about to do?
and then I stopped. I was like, don't worry, I'm not killing a puppy. And
Yeah.
I see the look of relief on most of their faces, like, oh thank God.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then a collar comes out
Mhm.
and it just says lucky on it,
Mhm.
and you don't know if that means anything if you're getting a puppy or not. She just got a collar and whatever, and I was gonna maybe give her a puppy later on,
Yeah.
but I scared the hell out of 12 people, and it was like, it was bananas. But it was I had to rush the end thing because
Mhm.
I had literally, I asked you the other day for riddles and puzzles and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It was that. It was
Mhm.
like I had them all rapid fire doing riddles, and it was kind of cool because then I would just toss out riddles to them.
Mhm.
If they solved it and came to me, I had a bag of dice. I would fill this like pool with dice, and then once they filled it up, they got enough to unlock the door.
Nice.
And
I
so
like
they
that.
were doing that. Some of them could ask the thing riddles or try to trick a riddle, and the door was a dice tower I had, and they can roll in the dice tower, and if they beat the DC, they convinced it, and that
Mhm.
added to it too. Some people had a physical jigsaw puzzle, and they're like, "Look, I did it," and that would add to it.
Yeah.
And if anybody didn't want to do that, the rest of them were fighting zombies, and they were just doing tick marks for hits and misses, and I was like, "Tell me if you miss,"
Nice.
and it made things harder.
That's great.
But that was a fun, crazy, elaborate encounter. I couldn't
Yeah.
do it because I made a crazy slushy machine. And
Yeah.
when they were on their way home, I put an out order sign on that thing. And I was like, it's almost as if some people abuse this. And now you guys can't get any more drinks. There's water and there's really good grape juice.
Yeah.
That's what you got now.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
That's funny.
Uh, I know I chewed on that story. I know that was a longer one, but
No, I
I
get it, man.
for the second half, I know I wanted us to rattle off some new ones that like neither one of us had come up with.
Mm,
So I had some like unhelpful traits, gimmicks, something like that, but you don't have to use any of those.
mhm.
But what are some unhelpful PCs that we can just throw out now? Because there's no repercussions on us because we're just coming up with a character. If anybody
Yeah.
wants to ruin their lives or their party's lives, that's not on us. But one of the ones that that sticks out to me right now is a scared client that has to be escorted.
Mhm,
And that's just funny
mhm.
because it's like, oh, this is the mission, but the guy is going to make it difficult because he is just
Yeah.
so terrified of
You make
everything.
him
And
you
I'm
make
like,
him really paranoid, and like
yeah,
nobody is actually after him. There are no like bandits on the road. There's nothing like every problem is directly caused by his actions.
yeah.
Um,
It's like he's going to make it harder. But if you go, he is scared, it's not that it's a malicious. Well, eventually the party will think it is because they're like,
mhm,
he's trying to sabotage us.
mhm.
He's trying to whatever. But it's like he is a scared person. He is actively afraid. And if you want to put like they stumble upon another plot or you want to use it in some way, um, but let's just real quick. I just imagine a it would be funny. It's you can default to like a gnome or a goblin or a smaller
Mhm.
character. I love subverting expectations. Like like having like a really buff, crazy gnome and having him talk like this.
Mhm.
He's just a real. He's got tattoos and a big old beard and a scar, but this is how he talks, y'all. So I just
Mhm.
imagine like a really big Goliath, and he is like terrified. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
huge, I'm big, but that means there's a lot of me to kill. So he
Mhm.
doesn't want to die. So I just imagine a crazy Goliath that doesn't want to get ouchies.
Mhm.
That has to be escorted. And your party has a difficult time doing that.
Yeah.
What do you think you could throw out right now if you wanted to just if you were like, I don't care if this janks things up, it's not going to affect me. What would you do?
Oh man. Um uh have your party meet a merchant who sells homing pigeons as a way to like transport like messages and stuff like that quickly. Uh but he is a scam artist, and the homing pigeons only come to him. So he will give you a messenger pigeon. You take it with you. You write down whatever like message you want and put it on the pigeon, but it's not going to go where you want it to go. It only comes back to him, and then he just resells them to other people. Um
I love that two things happened while you were telling that story, that pitching that, because
mhm,
I forgot, like, that is what they're called, like homing pigeons, right?
mhm.
Yeah. I only know the phrase homing in the context of like an attack or a
A
missile
missile.
that yeah, like, so I'm imagining like if a
No,
homing
no,
pigeon
that's
that
great.
are trained so good.
He sells homing
Yeah.
pigeons. He sells two
th-
different types of homing pigeons. He
yeah.
sells the ones that send messages and the ones that will dive bomb and explode.
Yeah, like, it's just like, "Oh, I'm sending this letter to my family, and it
Right.
goes to your family, and it's gonna hit that house hard, and it's also gonna blow up." Like, I imagine homing in the sense of,
You
like, just a
die.
missile.
He sells homing pigeons. There's two types. There's the type that just like carry a message, and then there's the type that go and explode. And both of them are look exactly the same. You cannot tell them apart. He doesn't know the difference between them. They're all in the same cage, and it is a 50-50 shot for if that message is going to be just delivered where you want it to go, or if it is going to be a tactical strike. Oh man.
I also the
The
second
best part about that is I can absolutely see the party like buying a bunch of them and being like, we're just gonna send like one to the big bad every day. And like we'll just write hate mail and send it to the big bad every day, and maybe he just gets a mean letter, and maybe he blows up.
I I I also thought of what if the homing pigeons, you said they go back to him,
Mhm.
but it's like he's really lonely. So it's also he just responds, but he has to try to fake it like your letter actually got to where it needed to go, so he can feel like he's having correspondences.
Alternatively, he's just really nosy and he wants to know the information that you're trying to send to other people.
But you see, that makes sense though, because then it's like he can sell it, he can use it against you. But what if you sent it to somebody and you got a reply? It's like, understood, that's whatever. So how was your day?
He's trying to set up like a pen pal situation.
Yes. And he just keeps sending back. And it's like you have to do like an insight or investigation or something check. It's like, I don't think that Mert said
this is
this. I don't think this is Mert. We've been going back and forth. Did we tell him anything? We didn't say anything like secretive or important, right? Like, so, but who is this then? If this isn't so and so, then who are we writing with? And it's just he's got letters that are constantly going in, and he's just like, I have lots of friends.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends all over the world, and we talk about lots of different stuff. And it's, he does technically, he could be an information broker should he desire, but he just likes talking.
Yeah.
He just likes friends.
Hey, that's great. You have another one?
Yeah. Okay.
I see one on your notes that I absolutely want you to talk about.
Which one?
The first one.
The loan shark?
Yeah.
I have two ways that could be, because one, it is either a loan shark in that like one of the players borrowed a substantial amount of money, or whatever, and it's like, oh, they got to pay them back, or but you could use that like a mission where it's just like, hey, this guy owes me money, here's how I can squash this debt, here's a mission you all can go on to do it. That's cool. Or what if this person did pay their debt, or at least thought they paid their debt? Now, I don't know if you know about like I know I have done something where I've paid a bill or something like that, right? And then if I paid it in just the way where it's like, oh, there was going to be a little bit of balance carried over or something like that. Like, so I have an amount that I didn't realize was still there. So imagine it's like they owed 10 gold and they paid 9, just some dumb number that they believe they paid their number, their interest, their whatever, and they didn't, and then it's accruing interest, right? So it's
like they paid back what they originally borrowed, but they forgot to factor in the interest.
Correct.
And so they didn't pay that, and so then that interest is just sitting there gathering more interest.
Correct. So I'm imagining like somebody like going to collect on a debt that they didn't know they had. And so it's a matter of like legal jargon, trying to squash the debt, convincing they did it, trying to pay it, like it's just over complex. Like, again, these aren't supposed to be helpful. But because it's something so small, instead of like intimidating loan shark situation, it's more of annoying.
Right.
Like, hey, no, seriously, I need, it's this much. And maybe it's going back to the person just wants companionship or something, but it is like
it
more
keeps
of
coming up over and over
again.
It's
an annoying loan shark.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of them. You tried to blow them up. Doesn't work for shenanigans.
You've sent them homing pigeons. Nothing happened.
You've sent them homing pigeons. It's like a Rakshasa that is like, like not evil. You know what I mean? It's literally like if you kill it, it just goes back. It's gonna come back eventually, and it just comes back. It's like, no, seriously though, I did lend you 5 gold. And
It's like,
so with interest.
It's like lawful neutral, and is just like just annoying. Is just like
an annoying loan shark. Really, is what I'm pitching. Yeah,
and if it's a small enough amount, it would be such a minor inconvenience to just pay it back. But what you do is you make it even more annoying by it has to be paid back in person in a very specific place, and make that place very very far from where the party is. So like we have to get there, but like in the time they're journeying there, it's also going to be accruing interest. I love that. That's a very like fun way to do it. I had one of my groups is doing a a quantum leap situation, so they're like jumping into like other bodies and moving through time, and that one of the party members jumped into landed in this like halfling, is like trying to figure out where he's at and what's going on, and as like he finds out that he has a bill that he hasn't paid off with the like tavern that he woke up in, but he has a room upstairs, and so he like goes up to his room and he's like trying to figure out what's going on, and as he's going around the room and like gathering his stuff and stuff, he keeps finding all of these like letters of credit of like all these different shops in town that have given him like some form of credit to buy like the equipment and stuff that he needed. And so he just has like this massive debt for this person that he is like jumped into. He's like, don't I don't have that debt, but like this guy does, and like I need to pay this off because like I'm him right now. Yeah, I love the idea of adventurers who have debt. Like that's just very funny to me.
Uh, I also really want to do Quantum Leap in any way, shape, or
It's
form.
so it's
Whenever
so
it comes
fun.
up, I'm
I'm
like,
having so much fun
"Ooh,
with
it's
it.
so good for like quickie thingies.
Yeah,
I have to go soon because my daughter said, "Come on, Dad, say goodbye to your friends so we can go play more." Let's go play in the living room. Say
hey,
goodbye to your friends.
that's fair.
But I wanted to go on the second one real quick because it was long lost relative that wants to connect, and all of mine I feel are just like once again they're annoying, and it's like it's just a relative. It's just like, hey, you remember me? No,
Yeah.
I don't. It's just like I'm your mom's cousin. I'm trying to get in touch with everybody and see how they're doing.
I love this. I think for thanks for the sub C17R. Appreciate you. If for me, I would take this and twist it a little bit. You know how they talk about how like anytime somebody wins the lottery, they have like all of these like relatives that they've never heard of that come out of the woodwork asking for money and stuff like that. I would do it like that of like, so I heard you're some big hotshot adventurer now. Like, what you got all that money, and they just keep asking for like investments in their company or like trying to get adventurers involved in an MLM. Just like, so I'm selling Tupperware now. Like, just oh my goodness, I would love that.
That makes sense.
So
you see
much.
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because that is true. Especially if it's like after level 4, because I think that like in the DMG, as far as D&D is concerned, they do kind of go like level 1 to 4 is like they're starting out whatever, but after 5 it's like they have some name recognition.
Especially if you're like a
heroes
group with like a name
exactly.
for your group, like that spreads.
So it's like it makes a lot of sense. It's like someone that may or may not be related to you would have eventually gotten that, like, oh, they're a big shot adventurer and they got some gold now. They have a whole keep with a lot of animals.
I am immediately adding to my games just a little like a goblin who just like keeps track of all the major players and just wants to get all of them in on the ground floor and just like keeps tracking down these different adventuring groups.
Yeah.
He's like, I've got an opportunity you're gonna want to capitalize on.
Especially in your world where it's like you do have you say you try to put all your games in like the same world, right? And I just imagine the look of like on a player's face if they were ever in one game and then they're in another game and they're like, wait, is this the same guy or do you just do this all the time? It's like, oh no,
it's the same dude.
This is his thing. This isn't me recycling a bit because I like to use this a lot. Like, no.
Yeah.
This is what this guy does.
Yeah, this is legitimate. This is what he does for a living. Is he hunts down adventurers, tries to get them in at the ground floor, and then disappears. So yeah, NPCs, make them annoying, make them a little bit useless. in my experience, there are a lot of GMs who shy away from making their NPCs like not have a designated purpose, right? Like there needs to be a reason to introduce that NPC. If there are NPCs in your world that don't necessarily have a part in the larger story, that's fine, because not every person in the real world is connected to every story that is happening. Um, what what I find interesting about making NPCs that you intentionally haven't tied to the story, and they're just living their lives, is that immediately it makes the world feel more lived in. It makes the, like, if you're interacting with somebody who's not connected to the overarching story, then like they're just living their lives. The my party last night, they're the ones doing the Quantum Leap game. And so they have like no equipment because they're like they jumped into just regular people. And one of the characters had like gotten a job at a blacksmith to like help make some stuff in exchange for like having access to the forge to be able to make his stuff. He's an artificer. And so they were like getting ready to leave that city, and the guy who had gotten the job at the blacksmith was like, well, I can sell you equipment, like you can use my employee discount, and was like selling them stuff. And then they were like, the shopkeepers, you're the only one here. Why are we paying you? Like, we're just taking stuff. And so they just started robbing this guy's shop and took like all of it, like all of this stuff. And the one party member was like, they had taken a breastplate, and the people that like know the game and know the equipment were like, oh, that's an expensive piece of equipment. And she was like, oh, well, maybe I'll put it back. And we're like, no, if you don't know it's an expensive piece of equipment, it's totally fine that you took it. Like, even if you did, it's up to you if you want to take it. But they like, they stole, this is like a small town blacksmith shop. He had four magic items in his entire shop that were like in the back room in a locked display case. Like
The good
they
stuff.
they were his items. And like one of them was it's a corpse slaying warhammer that he had made for himself, because there's an undead problem, and there's like undead that are traveling south, and so he had made himself this hammer to like help defend himself against the undead. And so there's these like four magic items. They took those, they took the cash box, they took like all of these items. I'm like, this elderly dwarven man who like took in one of the party members and like gave him a job, let him use the forge, like did all these stuff. You have ruined him. Like, you have taken all of his stuff, like everything. And they're like, they didn't not do it, but their immediate next reaction was, well, we're jumping through time. If we end up backwards in time, we'll come find him and we'll invest into his shop before his shop is ever opened. We'll find him and give him the money to start his shop, so that like he owed us this stuff now.
Oh my God. I was about to say, okay, wait, is that creating an alternate timeline? Is that creating a paradox? No, you're making it so they feel less guilty, but he still is ruined and feels terrible.
I'm not doing anything. They've decided that they think that's how it's going to work.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
That is the best way to tell a story, though. When
I will
it's like,
update the stream
I'm not doing anything.
if the party ever,
yeah.
if they end up.
I was gonna say that's always
down.
the best feeling or whatever, when it's just like, I did nothing.
Yeah.
You did this.
Yeah.
You all made this happen. You and I both do like, here's logical through lines where it's like, there's nonsense, but then it's like, no, look, blank equals blank equals blank.
Right. A plus B equals C. Like,
yes, you all did this. So, yeah.
Amazing.
So that's I think we knocked this one out of the park, and you know what? We accidentally created some good players, some good things,
some
that
good characters.
Might do.
Yeah.
So I apologize for not sticking to the script. But this weekend is the Super Bowl, and before we go, yeah,
I had no idea.
I married into a football family, so
I heard Taylor Swift's boyfriend has a big performance this weekend.
Yes. Yeah, but it is my wife's family's favorite team, the Chiefs.
Oh, really?
They're
You're a
playing.
Chiefs family?
He has been my father-in-law has been a Chiefs fan for
Mhm.
decades. So like apparently he suffered through years of just losses and never
Oh, yeah.
winning.
Yeah.
And then now he's just like, this is his golden era.
Yeah.
And one of the players this year is from my hometown and he's killing it.
Nice.
So it's one of those things where right now they're just like, this is the renaissance of the Chiefs for them. Because
Yeah.
it's like someone from
Well,
our town.
a lot of
it's like all this
a
crazy.
large number of my family on my mom's side is in the like Kansas City area, so they're like
okay.
big Chiefs fans. I got to go to a Chiefs versus Buffalo Bills Thanksgiving Day game once when we were out there visiting them, and it was the worst loss that the Chiefs had in over a decade, I believe. And it was so funny because they had like commemorative pins of like the game and stuff, and we bought them at the beginning of the game, and then we watched the game and we're like, I'm so glad I have this pin because this is the worst game they've played in forever. But yeah, I was like, I'm not a big football fan. But
I watch. I know
for a hot second, I was very invested in this Super Bowl because it looked like it was going to be the Kansas City Chiefs and potentially the Lions, the Detroit Lions. And some of my family is in Kansas City, and the majority of my family is up in Michigan. And so it would have been this like half of my family would have been divided and fighting against each other, and it would have been very entertaining for me to watch as somebody who doesn't care about either. But yeah, I was very invested for a hot second.
Yeah, this year Usher is the halftime show, so I'm interested to see how that goes. But I'm not gonna be able to watch commercials because it's a football family and they like to pause and rewind and fast forward a lot of things. So I don't get to enjoy the commercials unless I'm literally on another TV somewhere. So that's fun.
My dad used to work for an advertising company that did like a lot of commercial work. And they every year for Super Bowl would host this thing. I think it was called the Spot Bowl or something like that, which was a Super Bowl party. Everybody would come to the Super Bowl party, but they were really just there to watch all of the different ads, and then they would go about doing other stuff during the actual game. When I was in high school, I was friends with a lot of theater nerds and a bunch of very nerdy people, and our D&D group would get together for the Super Bowl every year, and we would play D&D during the Super Bowl, and then we would take breaks to like refill our drinks and get food and stuff during the commercials and unmute the TV so we could watch all the commercials.
That sounds like heaven. So I was gonna say, for this weekend, why don't you make the calls to action like 3 appetizers or fun foods people could make either for their Super Bowl, and if they're not watching Super Bowl or whatever, just some fun things they might want to make. Yeah, these are still good things.
Fantastic call. I mean, let's start off with a classic buffalo chicken dip. Like, it's a classic. It's very easy. If you have a crock pot, like, fantastic. Like, that's good stuff. Love it. Second one, all-time favorite for me, loaded baked potato soup. Love it. So good. But I make baked potatoes, and then I like chop up the baked potatoes. I make sure that the skin is like really crispy on the outside of them. I chop them up and I put them into the soup. So there's like you get that like crispy potato skin in some of the bites, and then you got like sour cream and cheddar and bacon and like green onion and like all of this stuff. It's fantastic. I love it so much. Third one, a variety of chips and dips. Like, I feel like any event like a Super Bowl party or something like that, you don't need like a lot of big meals, right? You don't need like big entree items. You need a bunch of different things that can all be on a plate and just like trying different
Because in
things.
theory, people are watching something and would want to just fuel
Mhm.
up or just be picking at while
Mhm.
something's happening. In theory,
Right.
that's that. Yeah.
You need things that are capable of like, I don't want to get a plate right now, but I do want to just kind of like walk over to
Correct.
the table and grab something to munch on. Yeah, absolutely.
In my town, there's like staples where it's like there's always gonna be this, there's always gonna be Spanish rice. It doesn't matter what your ethnicity is. There's just enough bodegas where that's that easy. Pastelillos, there's just so it's like my wife's family isn't Puerto Rican, but it's
Mhm.
like arroz con gandules, pinchos, which is just shish kebabs, and pastelillos are like, all right, we got those out of the way, but what are we gonna have? And that's where the nitty gritty of like, are we who's doing wings, who is stuff. Uh, uh,
Uh,
but anyway, you're right. Yeah,
yeah.